You've spent your entire life watching it happen, watching other people collect friends the way some people collect hobbies, effortlessly, naturally, without even trying. They walk into a room and within minutes they're laughing, exchanging numbers, making plans for next weekend. And you? You're standing there wondering what you're doing wrong, because it's not that you don't want connection, you do. Desperately sometimes. It's that after 20 minutes of conversation, you feel like you've been drained, like someone reached into your chest and pulled something out of you. The small talk, the performance, the fakeness you can smell from across the room. You've been told you're too picky, too serious, antisocial, difficult. You've been told you need to lighten up, be more fun, stop overthinking. And maybe you believed it. Maybe you tried. Maybe you forced yourself to show up to things that bored you, to laugh at jokes that weren't funny, to care about topics that felt empty. And it didn't work. Did it? Because here you are, still alone, still tired, still convinced there's something fundamentally broken about the way you're built. But what if that's the lie? What if you're not failing at friendship? What if you're just incompatible with how most people connect? Not broken, not defective, rare. You've felt this in every room you've ever walked into. The scanning, the analyzing, the mental exhaustion that comes not from talking, but from pretending to be someone you're not. Most people recharge through social interaction. You lose power. Most people crave noise and distraction. You crave silence and depth. Most people collect acquaintances like trophies. You'd rather sit alone than sit with people who don't understand you. And over the years, the pattern has become undeniable. Year 1, you had dozens of friends, people you thought would be there forever. Year 5, maybe 10. Year 10, 2 or 3, if you're lucky. And you blamed yourself every single step of the way. You thought you were doing something wrong, pushing people away, being too much or not enough. But here's what nobody tells you. Nietzsche wrote about this over a century ago. He called it the pathos of distance. The higher you climb, the colder it gets. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Your mind doesn't process social connection the way most people do. You're not running on the same operating system. And society, every friend who drifted away, every family member who called you difficult, every voice in your head that said, "You're the problem," has convinced you that this makes you defective. It doesn't. It makes you incompatible with shallow systems. And there's a difference. There are 5 specific traits that create this isolation, 5 patterns that, when combined, make you fundamentally incompatible with the way most people socialize. These aren't flaws. They're not things you need to fix. They're the reason you've always felt like you're speaking a different language than everyone around you. By the end of this, you'll understand why you've always been this way, and you'll stop apologizing for it. Let's start with the first one. The trait that makes every social interaction feel like work instead of play. Trait 1. You see what others don't. You walk into a room, and while everyone else is smiling and chatting, you're watching. You notice the micro-expression that doesn't match the words, the way someone's voice tightened when they said they were happy for you, the compliment that landed just a little too smooth, a little too rehearsed. You see it before you can stop yourself from seeing it. Someone tells you, "I'm fine," and you already know it's a lie. Not because you're paranoid, not because you're looking for problems, but because you can't not see it. Their body language says something else. Their eyes say something else. The pause before they answered says something else. And now, you're stuck with information you didn't ask for and can't ignore. This is what separates you from most people. Your brain doesn't process words the way theirs do. You're analyzing behavior, patterns. What people do when they think no one's watching. What they hide when they think everyone is. It's not a skill you developed. It's not something you trained yourself to do. It's automatic, constant, exhausting. Because here's what that means in practice. Social environments aren't relaxing for you. They're overwhelming. Every conversation is data processing. Every smile is a question. Is this real or performance? Every laugh, genuine or strategic? You're not being judgmental. You're just seeing layers most people don't see. or choose not to. And the cost of that is brutal. People feel exposed around you. They don't know why. They can't articulate it. But something about your presence makes them uncomfortable. Your silence isn't shyness, it's observation. And that makes them nervous, because when you're quiet, you're not zoning out. You're watching, processing, reading between the lines they thought they hid well enough. They feel it, and they don't like it. Jung called this the ability to see the shadow, the parts people hide from themselves, the contradictions, the masks, the things they've buried so deep they've forgotten they're even there. But seeing what others deny comes with a price. You become the mirror they don't want to look into. And mirrors don't get invited to parties. So they distance themselves, not because you did anything wrong, but because being around you forces them to confront things they'd rather ignore. Your clarity makes them uncomfortable. And instead of dealing with that discomfort, they label you intense, weird, too much. Easier to call you the problem than to face what you're reflecting back at them. But here's what you need to understand. This is clarity, and clarity is lonely because most people prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. You're not broken for seeing what others miss. You're just awake in a room full of people who are pretending to sleep. Trait 2. You can't tolerate shallow connection. Someone asks you about the weather, and you feel your soul leave your body. Not because you're rude, not because you think you're better than small talk, but because your brain is frantically searching for substance and finding absolutely nothing. They're talking about cloud patterns and traffic and what they had for lunch, and you're sitting there wondering how much longer you have to endure this before you can leave without being labeled antisocial. 20 minutes of this, and you need 2 hours alone just to recover. Meanwhile, the other person, energized, happy, fulfilled by the interaction. And you're left wondering, what's wrong with me? Here's what's actually happening. Every conversation is an energy transaction. You pay, they pay. But you're not paying the same price. While they're cruising comfortably at 20% cognitive load, casually chatting about nothing, you're running at 80% trying to find meaning, depth, something real to anchor the conversation to. Your brain is scanning for ideas, for substance, for something that justifies the energy you're spending. And when it doesn't find it, the conversation becomes work. It's like your mind is a high-performance engine, and they're asking you to run on contaminated fuel. It doesn't work, and it hurts. The inequality is brutal. Their brain rewards them just for the ritual of socializing. The act itself feels good to them. It releases dopamine. It satisfies something. Your brain doesn't work that way. Your brain only rewards substance, depth, real exchange of ideas or emotion. Surface-level chit-chat doesn't just bore you, it drains you. You're playing different games with entirely different rules. And here's the choice you're forced to make every single day. Participate in conversations that feel empty and walk away exhausted, or choose silence. And when you choose silence, society calls it arrogance. They say you think you're too good for normal. Conversation, too intellectual, too serious. But it's not arrogance, it's energy conservation. You'd rather protect your mental resources than waste them on noise disguised as connection. Schopenhauer wrote about hedgehogs trying to huddle together for warmth in winter. They want closeness, they need it, but their quills hurt each other, so they maintain distance. Not because they don't want connection, but because getting too close causes pain. You have sharper quills than most people, not by choice, by design. Your need for depth, for meaning, for substance, it's not a preference you developed, it's how you're built. And shallow connection doesn't just fail to satisfy you, it actively harms you. So you pull back, you go quiet, you stop showing up to things that feel like a waste of time, and people take it personally. They think you're judging them, rejecting them. But you're not. You're just refusing to drain yourself dry for conversations that give you nothing in return. You're not avoiding connection, you're avoiding waste. One real conversation, 1 hour with someone who thinks deeply, who questions things, who isn't afraid of silence or complexity, is worth more to you than 100 surface-level interactions. And you'd rather have silence than noise, because at least silence doesn't pretend to be something it's not. Trait 3. You're internally self-sustaining. People try to manipulate you with approval, and it doesn't work. They compliment you, hoping you'll soften, hoping you'll need them. And you don't respond the way you're supposed to. They try to punish you with exclusion, the silent treatment, the cold shoulder, the subtle withdrawal of attention, tactics that work on everyone else. And you don't break, you don't chase, you don't beg, you don't even seem bothered. And this confuses them, then frustrates them, then terrifies them, because they just used their best tools and you didn't even flinch. Here's what they don't understand. You generate meaning from within. Your sense of worth isn't tied to whether someone likes you, whether they approve of your choices, whether they think you're doing well. You don't need their validation to know you're on the right path. Most people wake up every morning and check, am I loved? Am I valued? Am I enough? And they look outside themselves for the answer. You don't. You look inward, and you find what you need there. The Stoics had a term for this. They called it internal locus of control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." You've achieved what most people spend their entire lives chasing: psychological sovereignty. You don't need someone else to tell you you're okay. You already know. You don't need praise to feel stable. You don't need attention to feel seen. You don't fear rejection because your foundation isn't built on other people's opinions. And that makes you dangerous, not to individuals, to systems. Because every social structure, friendships, families, workplaces, operates on a hidden currency, dependency. People bond through mutual need, through validation exchange, through the unspoken agreement that will make each other feel important. But you don't need that exchange. You're self-sustaining. And when you don't need them, they can't control you. They can't use the fear of exclusion to make you comply. They can't dangle belonging in front of you to get you to perform. They can't leverage approval to shape your behavior. You're immune to the tools most people use to influence each other. And that makes them deeply uncomfortable. So they label you cold, distant, arrogant, emotionally unavailable, anything to explain why their standard manipulation tactics bounced off you. But you're not cold. You're just not desperate. You're not distant. You're just not dependent. You're not arrogant. You're just not asking for permission to exist. And in a world where most people's entire sense of self is built on external validation, your self-sufficiency looks like a threat. Because if you don't need them, what power do they have over you? None. And people fear what they can't control. So they push you away. They call you difficult. They say you're impossible to connect with. But what they really mean is, you're impossible to manipulate. And they're right. This isn't emotional unavailability. This is self-sufficiency. And self-sufficiency is threatening to people who have spent their entire lives mistaking dependence for connection. You don't need them to complete you. You're already whole. And that's not loneliness. That's power. If this content is making sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Trait 4. Your progress is a mirror. When you were struggling, you had friends, plenty of them, people who called, who checked in, who wanted to hang out and commiserate about how hard life was. Then something shifted. You started building, improving, getting disciplined about your time, setting goals, actually working towards something. And slowly, quietly, they disappeared. Not all at once. Not with drama or confrontation. They just drifted. Stopped replying as quickly. Stopped inviting you to things. Found reasons why they couldn't meet up. Until you looked around one day and realized you were alone. And you blamed yourself. You thought, I must have changed. I must have become too focused, too serious, too much. But here's what actually happened. You didn't change who you were. You just stopped pretending to be someone you're not. You became more disciplined, more intentional, more focused on building something real instead of wasting time on distractions. And that pushed them away, not because you did anything to them, but because your progress became a mirror. Every step you took forward reflected back their stagnation. Every hour you spent working on yourself reflected the hour they spent scrolling. Every choice you made toward growth highlighted the choices they weren't making. You weren't trying to shame them. You weren't judging them. You weren't even thinking about them. You were just living your life. But your existence at a different frequency became an accusation. Because when they looked at you, they didn't see you. They saw their own unrealized potential, their wasted time, their abandoned dreams. Jung wrote about this. He called it the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge, the things we've buried, the potential we're not living up to. And when you grow, when you change, when you actually do the work they keep saying they'll do someday, you force them to see their own shadow, the gap between who they are and who they could be, and they hate you for it. Not consciously. They don't wake up and think, I resent their progress, but deeply, unconsciously, in ways they can't even name. So they create distance. They say you've changed, that you're not fun anymore, that you think you're better than them. But what they really mean is, your growth reminds me of my stagnation, and I can't handle it. Think about the pattern. Year 1, you had 50 friends, people everywhere, invitations, group chats, plans. Year 5, maybe 15, year 10, 2 or 3 if you're lucky. Society looks at that and calls it failure, social decline, isolation, something going wrong, but it's not. It's refinement. Every person who left was aligned with who you were pretending to be, not who you actually are. They liked the version of you that stayed small, that didn't challenge them, that made them feel okay about their own choices. But the real you, the one who's growing, building, refusing to settle, that version threatens them. So they filter themselves out. And you're left with the 2 or 3 people who can handle your evolution without feeling attacked by it. That's not loss, that's clarity. Here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you. They don't want you to fail. That would require them to actually care about you. What they want is for you to stay exactly where you are, close enough to make them feel connected, low enough to make them feel safe. The moment you start climbing, the moment you start becoming something more, you become a threat to their comfort, and they will choose their comfort over your growth every single time. You didn't lose friends because you did something wrong. You lost friends because you did something right. You stopped shrinking yourself to fit into spaces you'd outgrown, and the people who needed you small couldn't follow you where you're going. Trait 5, you live in the future. Your friend texts you, let's go to Vegas this weekend, come on, live a little. They see fun, adventure, a break from routine. You see $800, 3 days of deep work lost, a precedent set that you're available for spontaneous trips. The compound effect of saying yes to 15 weekends like this over the next 5 years. All of that calculates in your head in about 2 seconds. And you say no, and they call you paranoid, joyless, no fun. But here's what they don't understand. You're not overthinking, you're not being anxious. You're running simulations. While they're making decisions based on what feels good right now, in this moment, you're 3 moves ahead. You're seeing the long-term consequences, the second-order effects, the opportunity costs. You're playing a completely different game than they are, and it's exhausting. Because time doesn't work the same way for you as it does for most people. For them, time passes. It's neutral, something that happens in the background while they live their lives. For you, time bleeds out. Every wasted minute feels like a wound. Every hour spent on something meaningless feels like something dying inside you. When someone asks you to spend 3 hours socializing about nothing, what they hear is, let's catch up. What you hear is, donate 180 minutes of your life, minutes you could spend building something, learning something, becoming something, so I can feel less lonely for an evening. And you can't do it, not because you don't care about them, but because you care more about the future you're trying to create than the present comfort they're trying to preserve. You're not heartless. You're just playing on a different time scale. It's like playing chess with someone who can only think 1 move ahead. At first, you try to meet them where they are. You play their game. You make the obvious moves. But eventually you realize this game isn't challenging. It isn't meaningful. It's just going through motions and you stop playing. Not because you're arrogant, but because the game doesn't match the stakes you're playing for. They're optimizing for right now, for immediate pleasure, for what feels good today. You're optimizing for 5 years from now, 10 years, 20. Every choice you make is a brick in a foundation they can't even see yet. And they think you're crazy. They think you're missing out on life, but you're not missing out. You're just invested in a different outcome. Nietzsche understood this. He wrote about 2 kinds of people, those who live for the present, who chase immediate gratification, who make decisions based on how they feel in the moment, and those who live for what they're becoming, who endure discomfort now for transformation later, who sacrifice the easy path for the meaningful one. You've chosen the latter, and the price of that choice is incompatibility with those who haven't, because they don't understand why you won't just relax, why you can't just let go and have fun, why you're always thinking about tomorrow instead of enjoying today. And you can't explain it to them in a way that makes sense, because they're not seeing what you're seeing. To them, the weekend trip is just a weekend trip. To you, it's a decision with consequences that compound over years. To them, staying out late is harmless fun. To you, it's 8 hours of recovery time you'll need the next day that you could have spent working. You're living in a future they can't conceptualize yet. And that makes you impossible to relate to. They call it overthinking. You call it foresight. They call it anxiety. You call it survival. Because you know something they don't. That every choice compounds. That time is the only resource you can't get back. That the person you're becoming is built from the decisions you make today, and you refuse to sacrifice that future for comfort in the present. So you walk alone. Not because you want to, but because the path you're on doesn't have room for people who are still trying to figure out where they're going. Now you see it. When you combine all 5, the pattern recognition that makes you see through people instantly, the depth requirement that makes shallow conversation feel like death, the internal self-sufficiency that makes you immune to manipulation, the mirror effect that makes your progress threaten others, and the temporal displacement that puts you on a different time scale than everyone around you. You don't get someone who's failing at friendship. You get someone who is fundamentally incompatible with how most people connect. You're not broken. You're succeeding at something entirely different. Authenticity, depth, self-sovereignty. Things most people spend their whole lives pretending they want but never actually choose, because choosing them costs too much. And the cost is this: isolation. But here's where it gets dangerous. Prolonged isolation will make you doubt yourself. It will whisper, maybe you should lower your standards. Maybe you should try harder to fit in. Maybe you should mask who you are just to have someone around. And that temptation will feel reasonable, because loneliness hurts. But listen carefully. The pain of isolation is finite. It has a bottom. You can hit it. You can sit with it. You can survive it. The pain of self-betrayal is infinite, because you don't betray yourself once and move on. You wake up tomorrow and do it again, and again, and again. Every fake laugh, every shallow conversation, every time you shrink yourself to fit into a space you've outgrown, you die a little, until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person looking back. That's the real loneliness, not being alone, but being surrounded by people and still feeling completely unseen. So here's the choice: loneliness or self-betrayal. One has an end, the other doesn't. Choose wisely. You're not broken, you're rare. And rare things are lonely by design. Now go to the comments and tell me, which of these 5 traits hit hardest? Which one made? You realize you're not alone in this? Your answer might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if this video made you feel seen, if it gave words to what you've been experiencing your whole life, support it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. This space is for those who refuse to lower their standards just to belong.